think it must be in the bedroom.
Okay. Are live. Hey, everybody. Almost have our roof done. Not quite yet, but almost. I got it mostly done, and then the guy didn't show up. So, hope everybody had a great full moon. It was actually nice and clear here last night. Hi, Scott. How are you? Julia says, smiles wide and waves hi back. Yay. Of course, the eclipse was during the day on this side of the planet, so we didn't get to see it. Ruth says, hi, all. Ian says, blessed be. Jennifer says, hello. Hi, everybody. Pretty exciting. Uh-oh, here comes Bunny. Hey, you, Mr. Bunny. You are all wet. Been drooling, apparently. Hey, what are you doing? Winding up my head. What's up with you? You're gonna have to go down. Hey, Grumpy Owl. I don't think this is gonna work for me. Here you go. Down with the bunny. Go. Up. Ah. Maybe he'll go and play with Ian. That'll be fun. Hi, Grumpy Owl. Erin, hi. Everybody. Ah, life is interesting. As my coffee. Sheila, hello, glad to be here. Nice to have you around too. We enjoy our chats on Sundays. It's lots of fun. Sundrop says, blessed be. Thank you for answering my email. You're welcome, Sundrop. I know how these things can go, so I'm glad you reached out. So, yeah, way to go. And Ian says, all viewers, please feel comfortable with commenting. Welcome. So, what do we want to talk about today? We just had a nice full moon, and some of us charged up our amethyst crystals to help with as much as we can, spreading that energy of joy, peace, and tranquility for those who are willing to accept it and ready, etc. But I was getting a lot of visual effects last night. I ended up not sleeping that well last night. I had to get up for a couple hours because full moons often make me antsy. And last night was no exception. Sometimes I can sleep through a full moon, but not often. Oh well. I am. I was definitely antsy. Legs were twitchy and stuff. Erin says, I did not sleep good either. Yeah, it's like there's something about the energy flying around the air. And now we're so close to Samhain. Although depending on what tradition you follow, Samhain may might that's okay. Sorry. Might be like on November 7th, the movable version of it. People calculate when it's supposed to be. So I was reading about that the other day. Julia says, that was me up and down, but when I did sleep, it was deep and active at the same time. Always good, interesting. Sundrop says, I've been sleeping wonderful, surprisingly. Good. We all need sleep for healing and everything else. So we're still curious about what our light anomaly was on our last show, so we're going to see whether it happens again. And if it does happen exactly the same way, we're going to assume that it's some kind of environmental factor that we don't understand. But it was kind of interesting that it just sort of came in on this side and made that light just spread and touch this back in here. Yeah, touched it over there. Uh, nope. We have nothing downloading. I turned off my phone so it doesn't cause any interference. Ah, that would be why. So you need to connect to the one out here. Cool. So I'm on my new computer, so this one's supposed to have better video. Guess you can be the judge of that. I can't see it.
I think it's except that latency light in.
Well, maybe we should bring in one of the lights, that spotlight that we have, and set it up for next week. Yeah. Well, we'll figure something out. But until we get the temple refurbished and everything, this is where we're at. So what do we want to talk about? Everybody, give me a subject. Or you can give me a subject. Anybody having unusual experiences or fun events or burning questions about reality, magic, and all things, nature.
How come kids' guardian ain't help them out and save them?
Oh, well, it's true, they can't. It's like, it doesn't seem like they can interfere with what people are doing.
That way. Why the heck not? That's one of the most unfair things I can think of.
Yes, spirits have got, different kinds of spirits have got their own restrictions, and because I had two guardian angels and they tried to comfort me and like lay
Right,
next to me
it's
when I
like-
went to bed at night, but they couldn't stop my father from being abusive. So yeah, I don't know. But I've encountered that, like they won't give me answers to things sometimes when I'm doing healings.
Yeah,
And
sometimes it doesn't make sense, you know.
and they're like, it's up to you.
Makes me wonder about the whole hype about guardian angels.
Yeah, occasionally it seems like they can intervene, but it seems to be pretty rare. Beth says, hello, everyone. I'm looking forward for our time together as I'm cooking rosemary sage chicken, roasted sweet potatoes, and onions wrapped in olive oil, salt, and pepper. Yummy. Yay, yummy.
Sounds good.
Sheila says, keep seeing and hearing about the Green Lady, particularly with healing. Green Lady, huh? Well, green is certainly a healing color associated with healing. My aura is extremely green. It seems to definitely be true for me. But I haven't heard about the Green Lady specifically, I think. Julia says, I'd like to ask if the people here today wear costumes for Halloween in some way, and if they do, then do they try to express an inner or spiritual truth about themselves, or just go for fun and scares? I never have gone for scares. I don't like scares. Is this another marijuana reference I'm unfamiliar with? Since I
No,
don't.
that's the name of the dispensary.
Ah,
I was looking up marijuana.
Green Lady. And that's what you came up with? Okay. So, I guess Sheila will have to clarify whether it's a spirit being or something else. Sundrup says, fun and scared if I do dress up. I love scares. Me, I like to dress up as a mythical being or a goddess. I've been a fairy queen and a goddess and a fairy, you know, just a fanciful creature. Um, I like wings. That's what I tend to go for. I'm not really doing parties at this point because it's just too much energy, too many people, and yeah, I do not feel the need to be in a group of people that are doing whatever, and I have to, protect myself from them. But Aaron says, I have only heard of the Green Man. Yeah, me too. Green Man, not Green Lady, so I'm curious. But I think that there's so many different kinds of belief systems out there and so many different types of spirit beings that anything's possible. Phyllis says spirit being, and I see her with two dragon helpers. Okay, so you're seeing the Green Lady. Do you have a name? Like, is this Bridget or something like that? Because she likes to dress in green and she is associated with fire as well as healing. Beth says, truthfully, mystical creature. Mostly just grabbed something out of my closet. Yep. I used to go as a fortune teller a lot. And then I realized that people then wanted me to tell their fortunes, so I really didn't get to go to the party. I ended up in a room either with my crystal ball or my tarot cards doing readings for people. It was like, well, that's not what I envisioned when I got dressed up this evening. So I put a stop to that. I'm like, yeah, that's not that much of a party for me. That means I'm working. So, bleh. But I think it is quite fascinating to see what people choose to become. And, you know, I think sometimes people use it as an opportunity to express their shadow self in a safe environment and sort of explore the edges of their psyche in that regard. So, I don't know. I did do a video the other day, it'll come out in a couple of days. So we're getting into the swing of trying to get back into stuff with the construction nearing an end as far as the main part goes until our part starts. I'm trying to refurbish the temple and whatnot. So we'll be doing that before we move back in there. Phyllis says, no, she just comes out of the ground with lots of vines and plants. Okay, sounds like a definite earth spirit or goddess, which would make sense. Maybe this is a representation of Gaia for you. Sundrop says, I've been wondering if there's something wrong with me because I like scary things. I always have. I'm curious, and thankfully it hasn't gotten me in trouble. I'm just attracted to the horror. I don't know. Everyone is different. People often like the adrenaline rush that being scared gives them. So, but yeah, not me either. Being frightened is a bad combination for doing paranormal investigations. If you are easily frightened or like to be scared, then that's probably not a good thing to do. Because if you're going to do the paranormal kind of stuff, you need to be grounded, centered, and kind of in control of what's going on around you. And fear is about the worst response I think you can give to a situation when you don't know what's going on, or even when you do know what's going on. Fear seems to be like a generator of extreme activity that can get out of control, and things can feed off of it.
Rapidly turn to feedback situation.
Right. You get scared, the energy ramps up, it scares you more, it goes like, yeah, becomes a self-generating kind of activity. But, yeah. Julia says, absolutely great replies, and I must say, not at all surprising, so chuckles. Always good to know what people are into. Everybody's different. And some people won't celebrate the day because they're afraid of, attracting the dead or spirit beings or whatever, or it's against their religion, because that happens too. It really depends on cultural attitudes. And I think that people that are more afraid of death and what can happen after death are more likely to not want to be involved in it, maybe. Or it could give them an opportunity to try and explore that side. So, yeah, it's interesting. Jennifer says, I was watching Ghost Hunters and wishing there was a show with the two of you doing investigations instead. Well, see, the thing is we wouldn't make as good of a show doing an investigation because, we just go in there, go like, oh, okay, this is what's happening, and then fix it. And then,
well, yeah. Plus the paranormal isn't really my forte, and the stuff that's happened to me has been more paranormal stuff has been more along the lines, not directly related, like seeing into the past, that time,
Right.
that type of stuff.
Although your perceptions have been increasing and your intuition
That's true.
has, and you're seeing more things, so your clairvoyant ability is also on the
It's true, there's
rise.
been
So that could
improvement
change.
there.
Um, but we haven't done one in a while. And I find that using the equipment and so forth distracts me from what I'm trying to accomplish. It sort of tunes my mind into a certain groove, and then I have to get out of that in order to be able to um, tune back into the more subtle influences and energetic influences and so forth that I can experience. So me with an EM field detector is that's all I can do when I have that, and then I have to go back and do something different. Julia says, Sundrop, it seems to me that you're facing a scary thing and surviving it is fairly life affirming and can be empowering. When society goes off the interest in box office booms and scary movies. Sundrop says, I'm more scared on Halloween night of accidentally hitting little trick or treaters that dart out into the street. That scares me. That scares me too. Every day. I'm always worried when I'm driving that someone's going to like jump out and I'm not going to be able to avoid them. So, yeah, it makes me extra cautious as a driver. Jennifer says, but that's what I wanted to see, things actually getting fixed. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, maybe as we get more into this and if we get another investigation happening, um, you know, I have one of those things you can stick on your forehead and put your cell phone on to videotape what you're doing. That might be a way for me to get some stuff. I don't know. It was kind of interesting when we were at the cabin and I took those photos of the energy, shifting the energy in at the tower spot, and how we actually got pictures of the energy. I've had a few times where things like that have shown up on film. It's always fascinating to me when they do, and always surprising. But and then, I'm skeptical whenever I see like a picture of clouds or trees or something like that, and someone says, "Oh, there's a face in there, I can see it," and I'm like, unless it's really obvious, I'm thinking it's a case of parapadelia where my brain is trying to create a face because I see that on the bathroom wall, on floors, anywhere I look. If there's like enough contrast between shadow and shapes and colors and stuff like that, my brain will try to make a face out of it, and usually that's all it is. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. Beth says, definitely I like to go in with my gifts, no gadgets. It disrupts the details of what I'm picking up. Yeah, absolutely. It is distraction. But if I'm going to be doing a full on thing, I usually go in first with the EM field detector to see if there's any actual wiring problems or I pick up something where there shouldn't be any kind of electromagnetic field or something like that just to cover my bases because our brains are funny. Anytime you have real paranormal encounters going on in a house, at some point the people who live there generally think that everything that's happening in their house has now become paranormal. Trying to separate those things out is difficult because then they're convinced that that's what's happening and they don't want to hear anything else and so forth. Sundrop says, at Julia, I think for me life is scary at times. May sound strange. I'm scared to get gas, but watch something scary, I'm all for it. Probably because it's a more controlled environment because you know you're safe when you start to watch it, watching it on TV. Julia says, would you tell us what your lovely necklace is? Okay, so I have, this is my moonstone pentagram. This is my other pentagram, Celtic one, which has got moons around it and a couple of circles, which I liked. a couple of us got those. This is my new fairy star with the amethyst that the matching part of which I left underneath the yew tree at the power spot that we went to in August. So this is sort of helps to connect me to that energy, and I use it for that on a regular basis. It's been interesting. I didn't know I was going to hang it on a fairy star, but when I got back from there with all the, meeting the forest troll and stuff like that, and the things that I saw, I thought, you know what, I should get a fairy star. And then the number 7, of course, is Venus's number, so that sort of fits in with other things as well. And so that's what I've got. I've got a fairy star. So thank you for asking. I'm wearing 3 of them. So do a bunch of you do paranormal investigations? Like some of you that are on there, do your own? Obviously, some of you must if already decided that you don't want to have any equipment or anything like that when you're doing it. So, curious. Sundrop says, honestly, I'm scared to become a victim of crime like at a gas station and store parking lots when a stranger rings the doorbell. Too many things are happening. Well, you have to be safe and careful, there's no doubt about it. There are always, throughout time, there have been marauders, robbers, and bad people. I don't think there's been a time when there haven't been some. They had highwaymen, and it's like, yeah. So being safe is a priority if you want to keep on breathing and not be hurt. Definitely something to consider. And being aware of your environment is an important aspect of that. One of the things they taught us in self-defense class. Try to be aware of the people that are around you and the situations that are happening around you so you're not just off in your own little world, not paying attention. Thunderup says, but I've got to move on with life. Well, yeah, move on with it, but be safe. We just had an attempted murder and attempted kidnapping a mile from our house. Just Friday, I think it was. So it happens everywhere, no matter where you are. So yeah, stay alert. Be in your power. Take control of the things that you do and what you do, etc. So anyway, you want to enjoy life as much as you can, but you want to be alive to enjoy it. Lewell says hello. Hi, Lewell. Thank you for joining us. Waiting for some people to put input. So how many of you have guardian angels that you know of? I wonder. I know I have 2, and I've met one other person that had 2. Most people I've met have had 1, or they've had an ancestor as guardians. Jennifer says, I wanted to collect some graveyard dirt this week from a grave of a murder victim who I didn't know, but I knew some of her family. Would this be advisable? Well, graveyard dirt is something that's used in a lot of hoodoo kind of spell work for protection and things. I think you need to ask permission from the spirit of at the cemetery, and there may be offerings involved in order to do that. And then you don't want to be caught trespassing, which could get you into trouble because there are rules about that usually. So it's going to be up to you whether you think it's advisable or not. Yeah. There's a lot of those spells in the 5,000 spells book that we have. So she has a lot of hoodoo spells in her work. Judith Light, is it? Put that compilation together. I'm not sure what is the purpose of a murder victim's graveyard dirt. I'm curious as to what kind of spell work that would be for. Sundrop says, I have no idea what angel spirits are around me. I don't feel them. Why? Could it be maybe I'm closing them off? I don't know. Um, Sometimes people are aware of them and sometimes they aren't. Some people have them and some people don't. So it's hard to know. Julia says, oh yes, one, I'm assuming angel, not an angle, and a group of Dr. Dragons. All right. Jennifer says, okay, justice spell? Ah, I see. Is this justice for the murder victim? Does no one know who killed her or him? Or just in general, using it to generate that kind of energy? Like, harm has happened and befallen and we're looking for justice. That makes a certain amount of sense. Beth says, my oldest daughter and I will be on the beach for Samhain. Cool. Are you going to have a fire? Sometimes people have fires on Samhain. Being on the beach, you're kind of safe for a fire. And local rules and regulations. Grumpy Owl says, I am more of an armchair researcher. I've gotten experiences from people that seen giant owls, but they don't consider it paranormal, and it may not be. A 4 to 6 foot owl is strange to see. Actually, there are owls that have wingspans that are that big.
Got one.
Beth says, if they let us, have a fire. Jerry Stokes says, do your children practice the craft? Is it the same as yours, or are they on their own path? Well, my daughter practices practical spell work when she feels she needs protection. Over the years, she has asked me, she's calling me up on the phone. She says, I'm worried these people are going to come and murder us, and what do I do? Or, she had a weird neighbor. So she's a very practical witch, although she doesn't call herself a witch. And she participates in our rituals when we have them. We haven't done one in a while just because of all the other stuff that's been going on. But, there were a number of family-oriented rituals that we would do together, like Ostara. She grew up around rituals. She participated in all the ones that I did when she was a teenager. When I was going and doing public events down at the beach in Santa Cruz. And then up in the Kispioks before that, she started to learn about it when she was younger. So she's familiar with it. She understands it. She's agnostic. So is my granddaughter, I think. And so everyone is different. I mean, I interact directly with some deities, and I think of them as external from humans and their own thing, and not just projections that people put out there in the ether, although I think there's some of those as well. So yeah, she knows how it works, and when she needs help, she calls on me, and then we do something together. We've done like protection for vehicles and trips and homes and that kind of stuff. Done those together. Just jumps in and does whatever I'm telling her she needs to do. So, and she has the gift in the family. All of them have a second sight. So she's had premonitions and so forth, and so is my granddaughter. So have I. So is my sister. Both of my sisters actually. And my mother's had some encounters with ghosts and things that were sort of a surprise, plus some spontaneous past life memories. But yeah, I think everyone's magic is different. That's one of the things I like about the path is the fact that it's not one size fits all. Everyone can do whatever works for them, and then your path can change depending on how you grow and you open up to new things and get interested in new ideas and new techniques or approaches seem more interesting or work fit better with how you've changed and transformed. So Diane says, hello everyone. Hi Diane. Jennifer says, no one knows who killed her and I wanted to do a justice spell for her. That sounds like a really good thing to do. It could work. I would, I know that the graveyard dirt is basically hoodoo, but I would add Saturnian influences there for a justice spell, because Saturn and the judges of Saturn and so forth will know who did it, and they could maybe apply some psychic pressure on the other planes to get the person caught. So, yeah, that's what I would do. Sundrop says, well, maybe it's not meant for me to know, I guess. Well, maybe not yet. Maybe later. Eve says, merry meet, folks. Hi, Eve. Grumpy Owl says, I was talking in height, not wingspan. Oh, that sounds like Mothman, 4 to 6 feet high. Sundrop says, should your first ritual be done alone or with an experienced practitioner? I think
Depends
that
on what it
depends.
is.
Yeah. I mean, self dedications are, a lot of times the first ritual a person really does is a self dedication kind of thing. And that's often done alone. So you don't have to have a group in order to start practicing. But you can just do like celebration stuff by yourself as well, noticing and celebrating and acknowledging the changes of the season and being out in nature and that kind of thing, to start making those psychic connections and energetic connections with the world and the universe around you. So it really depends upon what you're doing. Beth says, I love sharing the practice with my daughters and son. Yeah, my son has had all of his own experiences when he was younger. I'm not sure what he remembers, but he's also very practical. Um, and yeah, and I don't know that he's doing anything along the lines, but I'm his mom, so they have to, put up with me. Eve says, Beth, same. Yes. Riz says, I'm here to say thank you. My cat Link is ready to move on from this plane. Watching your channel brings me so much peace and helps me so much. Thank you, Siofra. Well, you're welcome, and I'm sorry that your cat is ready to move on. I know how hard that is for us. Us as our human counterpart is like, I wish cats lived longer. I've had a lot of cats throughout my lifetime, and it's a wonder to have them with us and to interact with them, but their lives are so short compared to ours. We always end up having to let go. And so I'm glad that anything I have said has helped with that, because I know how hard it is. Beth says, Eve, love. Sundrop says, I'm alone in this practice. I know I'll learn from mistakes. Not living alone makes it hard. Yeah, I know, because you're having to hide who you are and what you're doing, and don't want to answer uncomfortable questions from other people because it's really not their business. And Jerry says, thanks for answering my questions. I really appreciate it. Do you happen to know the age demographic that makes up the majority of your subscribers? I'm in my 50s and it's hard to find contemporaries. We actually have quite a few older.
Our subscribers.
Yeah.
Probably because we.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've talked to a bunch of people who are actually more experienced practitioners that are also subscribers. Um, and yeah, so I can look it up, and I would suspect that the average age is probably in the younger, 20 to 30 kind of range, but we have quite a lot of more practiced practitioners that are out there that are interested in either sharing what they have experienced or are even new themselves, because age is not necessarily a factor in how much you know and how well you can do it. Experience being a slightly separate, uh, factor there. But yeah, one of the reasons why I started this channel in the first place was because I saw a lot of new practitioners coming up and being taught by people who, in my opinion, didn't know what they were talking about. And it concerned me greatly that they were getting incorrect information. And in this world that we're in, where incorrect information gets repeated over and over and over again quickly until it becomes known as accurate, even if it's not, it's kind of a scary thing. Yeah, so I like answering people's questions. So thank you for being part of our group. Eve says, Sundrop, I feel that being solitary in the beginning is the best way to get to know your own way. Sundrop says, okay, Eve. Yeah, because getting to know yourself is primary for making progress. And if you're always looking outward and trying to fit in with other groups, then you're going to get into the traps of, you know, ego, attention, um, acceptance, needing to be accepted, which is normal. But if you can get more to your own core before you get into the situations, then those things are going to have less control over what happens to you. Julia says, true, Siofra, Sundrop. I'd also ask what makes something a ritual to you. Many things we do on a daily basis, especially with spiritual and metaphysical matters, can be considered a ritual rite. This is true. Lulu says, I'm in my mid-40s. So we're all going to start talking about our age. I'm 73. How old are you, Ian? Do you remember?
I don't want to.
Okay, he doesn't want to remember right now. He's younger than me, though. I robbed the cradle.
I'm no.
No, he's no spring chicken. Beth says, I'm in my 60s. Ha ha. Erin says, late 30s. All right. Sheila says, I'm 80. Congratulations, Sheila, for getting that far. Yay, you. Sundrop says at Julia, I'm talking about a spell ritual. I saw one on YouTube that was really awesome and elaborate. He said he does them several times a week, but it was also graphic. He does blood magic in his rituals. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if that's a good idea. Depends on what kind of blood magic he's doing.
Not fun.
Well, I mean, blood in itself is not bad. It's like, your akasha, your spirit, your essence. You're making it personal and so forth. But who wants to jab themselves all the time? Yeah. Unless, of course, it's animal blood, which I'm really dead set against for myself because it's just something I can't do. That doesn't mean other people can't do it. Julia says, Frizz, I lost my dog early this year with only a few days' warning after she apparently raided a food pile with cooked bones in it. Ooh, those days will forever remain with me. I loved her so much. Ah. Ruth says, I'm 65. So we have a lot of well-seasoned individuals. I like that word. We're well-seasoned.
We'll see.
Well, it's harder to like throw us off our game.
Early can
I think one of the things life experience gives you is the ability to kind of, you've already gone through a lot of shifts and, the rug being pulled out from under you, thinking you know what's going on and suddenly discovering you don't know anything at all. The more often that happens, the less likely you are to think that you know everything, which is a good thing, I think. Jennifer says she's 52. Julia says, I do agree with Siofra about blood magic, though as a diabetic, I also have plenty of chances to get some without extra effort. Oh, I'm so sorry. Carolyn says, I'm 65. Barry Stokes says, my wife would say well-seasoned but half-baked. Beth says, we are definitely well-seasoned. Speaking of seasoning, have any of you experienced the practice of culinary magic? That's what they call it nowadays. I practice of my life. Well, I mean, if you know what herbs do, what things, and what they're for, then if you're adding them to your food with intention, you're going to have more of a desired effect. In fact, even charging your food, regardless of what you've put into it, can be a benefit. Ian does that a lot.
Yeah, I do that.
Charging up his food with, whatever kind of energy he feels he needs or wants to embody or whatever as he consumes it. So it becomes a more conscious encounter with your meal. It's not just like a habit, mindless kind of thing, but it can become a ritual in and of itself. Lul says, I had a cat 18 years ago and still haven't gotten over losing him. He was black with green eyes, and I've yet to meet a cat that beautiful. Aw. Yeah, I've had a few of my cats come back to say hi after they were gone, or to let me know in a dream that they had died and how it happened, even if they didn't come as a ghost or spirit later. It's been interesting. I have a real strong connection with them. Sundrop says he draws sigils with his own blood in ritual, also for the spirits he's working with. I would say that's not a good ritual for you to do as a beginning ritual. I would not do that. I would wait until you understand your own energy and what that magic is and what it's all about. That would be my recommendation, because that's a little bit serious kind of magic. If you're trying to invoke a being into you or evoke a being outside of you, the level of understanding that you have about what that means to you and what kind of being it is and what potential side effects there might be for you and what control you have over your own energy are all factors to consider. So try something simpler, I would say. Beth says, I practice putting herbs and blessings in the food, and right before I eat, I cut my hands of the food and pour light into it with good intention. Oh, cup, I'm thinking, not cut. Yeah, that would be charging them up. Sundrop says, yeah, he records his ritual. Julia says, oh, yes, I love using herbs on the daily for magical purposes, including in food and kitchen magic. One of my hugest reasons for loving working with Hecate. As to the animal reincarnation return, I firmly believe in it, but also believe clues can be found also in behaviors as well as physical attributes. Google says for a female doing a spell at a certain time of the month would be good enough for blood magic, I think. Well, absolutely. Yeah, Menses is perfectly good blood for magic, and a lot of the early books on magic talk about that. Starhawk and Cunningham and a bunch of other different practitioners talk about Menses as a blood magic source. Beth says, put my hands over the food. Yeah, I figured that out. Diane says, I often sense my cat who has passed at night walking on the bed. I think my new cat senses it too. Ah, that'd be fun. And that's what happened when Charlie came back. He jumped on the bed and he rolled on the bed into my back and laid against my back, and I could feel him. And then he did the little biscuits and started purring. And I was pretty convinced for a while that there was an actual cat on my bed, and I turned on the light, and there wasn't. And I turned off the light, and he did it again. And that was funny because he's buried in our backyard, and I have like I guess a warded area around our house, kind of thing, so that random spirits can't just come in without an invitation, kind of thing. And when that happened that night, I felt him. I thought, let me check. So I checked in with my circle and wards and stuff, and there was a cat door right where he was buried. I could see this little cutout, energy cutout or whatever, and I'm like, okay, that's got to be Charlie because that's where he is. And I thought, yeah, he's allowed to come in. So I left it there. It was interesting, surprising, and interesting. Sundrop says, no, I'm more on the kitchen side of which you work, but I like to just watch his work. Beth says, I went to a party one night and a nice lady made a meal for us, but she wasn't so nice after we eat meals. She said she puts bows in the food, so I got up and left. Bows?
Bells.
Bells in the food. Okay. Well, if you don't know what they are and is not with your permission, then I don't blame you. Word perfect does not work. Mary says, happy Samhain. I made my altar for my beloved dead and also for Hecate today. Awesome, Mary. Thank you for joining us. Sundrop says, yeah, kitchen witch. It's easier to hide. Beth says, I'm okay with it if I give my consent first. Sundrop says, kitchen witchery is one of my first books. Well, yeah, because, It's all about nature and what's more natural than food, right? But consent is one of the things that I find important to me. Um, Somebody does something to me without my consent, my natural protections are going to kick in, and they're not going to be happy with the result. So, forewarned. I've never had anyone do that to me, as far as I know. Maybe someone did, and they're, you know, reaping the consequences, but I don't know them anymore. I have no clue. But yeah, um, it's a complicated subject, and that brings up ethics and um, personal ethics and choice, will, free will, etc. Beth says absolutely, it's all about being ethical with good intentions. Well, see, the thing is that someone who's doing it to you may think that they're having good intentions because they see that you need help in their view, because they think you should be a different person than you are, or you have an illness that you're not dealing with the way they would deal with it. So then they're going to put something and give it to you with all of the good intentions, but it may not be the right thing to do. So it's not just about intentions, there's other factors. Because people have a right to decide how they want to be ill as well as how they want to be well.
And not everybody, good intentions. A lot of times, like as an example, religion, official religions will pray for you to be converted to their religion because they believe they're saving your soul, and they'll believe that, and it may be a religion that you're not at all inclined to or in harmony with. Still trying good intentions. I mean, if their intentions are actually to help you as an individual without any other preconceived notion of what the helping you is,
No
then
hidden
that's
agenda.
much better. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the problem is, what do people think is helping out, and does the receiver really think is helping out?
Yeah. And
It's a tough one.
Beth says Beth says you're exactly right, Siofra. So yeah, it's always complicated. It's never just black and white kind of thing. But that's why language is important to try and use, I guess. Julia says that's why I also add those that want them when I send blessings, etc. in a farewell. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
if it's receptive, if it's in their to their highest good, and they're willing to accept it, then that makes it more likely not to take effect if it's something that they wouldn't want. So it sort of helps to cover your bases. Sophia says, hello. Hi, Sophia. Lewis says, my physical and emotional boundaries have been breached so many times when I was younger that I get very sore at any attempt to do that now. Yeah. I totally get that because, self determination, that's what this path is really all about. You decide who you want to be and what kind of an individual you're going to become and how you're going to present yourself to the world and what your relationship with the universe is. And yeah, having your boundaries violated, yeah, makes me
Yeah.
definitely prickly if someone is trying to convince me of something I know I'm not interested in and they don't take no for an answer. I get annoyed at TV shows. Someone says, hey, let's go out and do this. They're like, nah, I don't think so. Oh, yes, you do. You would like it. You need to come. Or why don't you eat this food? I'm going to order for you or whatever. And I'm like, what the heck is wrong with you? They said no, they didn't want it. No, they didn't like it. Leave them alone and like trust their boundaries.
Of course, you have some personal experiences along them.
Yeah, respecting people's boundaries is very important.
Apparently, you're horrible for not liking peppers.
Oh my goodness. Yes, got into a big fight with that one. People are funny. The things that they like, that they really think are good, and someone else doesn't like them, they often take it personal. It's the strangest thing to me. It's like, I don't understand it. It's just not good for my body, and my taste buds don't like it. My system doesn't like it. It's not personal. Your likes. You are free to like peppers all you want. Sundrop says, yes, Ian, Christians are like that because that's what they're taught. This is true. They're taught that that's the way to behave. And that's part of their belief system. Not all of them, I'm sure, but a lot of them. F says, Lewell, love, love, love. And, with me, getting to acquire boundaries has been a huge struggle to start with because I wasn't permitted to have any when I was a kid. And that makes interpersonal relationships dangerous. If you've not ever been allowed to have a boundary, the people you tend to end up with are people who can tell that you don't have any boundaries and that they can manipulate you because you don't know where you end and someone else starts. And so it's like a huge, yeah, it's a problem. So learning how to have boundaries is something I actually still struggle with sometimes. It's an ongoing process. But the more I know who I am, the easier it is. Someone tries to get me to do something I don't want to do. It's like, no, I'm not doing that. So go away. They don't accept my boundary. It's like, then I just don't have them around anymore. Kind of one of my deal breakers. I guess that's the only way to have actual healthy adult relationships is to know yourself well enough to know what is and isn't okay with you. Beth says, me too, Siofra. I had to learn boundaries. Yeah, and it's not easy. You don't have a template. No one ever showed you what they looked like. For me, it was the cat and the dog I lived with that helped me learn about boundaries, the beginning of them, and how to behave properly. Trying to figure out how I was supposed to act and whatnot, and how things worked. Because the people I was with, it was pretty clear they had no clue. Sundrop says, me too. And, we're always in motion. We're always progressing and trying to tune ourselves to become more complete and better versions of ourselves if we're paying attention. Some people think they don't need it as they're perfect. Like, someone we won't mention who, said, hey, I said I was enlightened. I decided I was enlightened. Therefore, I am enlightened. So I don't have to do anything.
There's a surprising amount of people.
Yeah, there are others. Like, yep. Grumpy Owl says, some native people will get offended when I turn down a cigarette, but I don't smoke. I figured next time I'll take it and offer it to Spirit. I used to do that when I was a smoker. Well, yeah, that might depend as a cultural kind of a thing. If they don't understand, but still they should.
They shouldn't get offended if you're not,
Sundrop says, I let people cross my boundaries, unfortunately. Google says, yes, people will call you selfish when you don't do what they expect you to do. I get very upset when someone makes decisions for me and puts me in a position when I can't say no. Yeah, I don't like that either, and it's very annoying. Nicole says, I tried to go to different churches, but realized that I have more faith when I'm home practicing my spirituality, plus no unwarranted judgment. I practice my mediumship in the highest light. What do you think of metaphysical churches? Well, I think they're like any other organization. They're made up of people. Doesn't matter whether it's a metaphysical church, a religious church, or a group of witches together. There's always going to be the potential for egos and conflict and misunderstandings and judgment and criticism and stuff from other people that are there.
There's realistically no way around it because people are people. Even if they're the best church in the world or the best, there'd still be that bit of variety.
Yeah.
It's like there's always bad ones among the good.
Bill says, to ask me first, I'd say yes, but not giving me an option is annoying. Well, it's called manipulation. And I don't like being manipulated. You don't either, so yeah, I mean, that's what it is. Sundrop says, thanks, Beth. Julia says, life in general can be so hard to maintain boundaries from. Do I want to show ID or to have certain procedures done medically to fill out paperwork to the ninth degree? No. But to live, I do. Yeah, there are certain things you have to decide. It's like these are the rules, this is how it's set up, and you can either opt out or choose to follow them. Like when you're dealing with a bureaucratic organization, yeah, there are things that you have to do. Like I didn't enjoy filling out the form to get the grant to fix the roof.
Awesome.
But I didn't expect to get the grant either. That was a surprise. I was just applying for the loan because everyone says you can't get a grant for that. But then they gave it to me, so that was great. I'm like in my power. Whee! I manifested like crazy. All I have to do is get the idiot who doesn't want to work to come over here and finish the job.
Oh.
Or have him fire that guy and bring in somebody else. Sophia says, how do you tell the difference between schizophrenia and clairvoyance? I mean, they could think that you are a psycho. Well, okay. I know I'm not schizophrenic, but I have visions, which they call hallucinations, and it's I think the point where they don't think I'm mentally ill is the fact that I know the difference between normal reality that we all share together and can navigate that, and I'm clear on what that is. And I know when something extraordinary is happening to me, I'm aware of it. It's the people that have experiences and have no clue that's what's going on and have no control over what's happening to them that can get labeled mentally ill, I think. And in some cases, it's their brain interface isn't working properly, and they're that's how we define one of the ways we define mental illness is that inability to accommodate normal, rational, quote unquote, reality. And so that's why I talk a lot about grounding and as well as boundaries, because if you're grounded in yourself and your own energy and so forth, then if things are coming out, like you're becoming more clairvoyant and or clairaudient or whatever, uh, more sensitive people, then you also have the ability to sort of look at it from a sort of an overview and not get completely caught up in it and think that you're the new messiah or whoever, which is where that delusion seems to come from, one of the places. Okay. Nicole says, where is the best place to go to find like-minded spiritualist people, mediums, healers, etc., like myself? No idea. I mean, it's a hit and miss kind of a thing. There may be no one who thinks exactly like you. You might find some people who are similar enough that you can coexist in an area. The spiritualist church was the one that taught me uh, healing modality because of the healer that was there. Getting this out of the way of the cat. Hey, kitty cat. I see him on the screen. Um, yeah. So there's no one central location. We used to have a site. Witchbox was sort of a place that magical people could express who they were, what they did, and stuff like that, and connect with one another, people more of like mind. But it's gone, and I don't know if there's anything left to replace it. Comes to that, not the camera cat. Don't do it. He's thinking about it. He wants to sniff that thing really bad. Beth says, Siofra perfectly said. Sundrop says, I'm looking for the same, Nicole. Julia says, the shooter in that horrible episode in Maine, for instance, obviously did not understand the difference between his hallucinations and reality, and they motivated a horrendous crime. Yeah. Nicole says, I'm in Virginia and has not been easy. My sister's also in Virginia. So there's lots of other people in Virginia who might also be. Edgar Casey Foundation is in Virginia Beach, and they have all kinds of interest. Lou says, I wish I lived closer to you, Siofra. It would have been nice to talk in person. Well, thank you. Sundrup says, I want to be around others who have my interests in common. My best friend does, but she's not witchy. Well, you can look, a lot of times the way we've found each other in the past is going to like health food stores and metaphysical shops and things like that. If you have, if you don't have a metaphysical store in your area, the health food store is often a place where people will put up flyers.
Pagan dessert potlucks.
Yes, pagan dessert potlucks is how Ian and I met. And you might find an event. There's Facebook groups, of course, local ones maybe, that get together for like once a month to have a meet and greet and just talk and get acquainted with people. So it can give you a potential social situation. But remember that all those people are still like people, and I've met some a-holes that are very pagan, supposedly. That a male druid who is like a misogynist, like nobody's business. So it's not a guarantee of any kind because, like we said, everything is composed of people, and people are what they are. I'm going to try and knock something over. Oh, you're doing pretty good there. Grumpy Owl says the ones that got offended weren't in sync with their culture. I don't think tobacco offerings is great to do, though. I will remove the tobacco from the paper and filter for. Yeah, and there are some spirits that expect tobacco offerings, like certain land guardians, that if you are a smoker, then they expect you to give them tobacco. If you aren't, then they don't. So,
Certain Santeria.
well, right, but that's a specific religion and a specific deity in the religion, so that will depend as well. Mary says, I have a friend diagnosed with schizophrenia, but sometimes she has real psychic moments, but other times she is way off, and I think sometimes she doesn't know the difference. Does that make sense? Yes. And there are some people with schizophrenia that know when they're having an episode, but it doesn't stop the episode from happening. But there are others who don't know that they're having an episode and think that this is just reality. And it's not like some weird version of it in their brain. Julia says, I do miss Witch Fox, but when I was practicing heathenry, heathenry, I did find a kindred that was forming on Facebook in less than 12 minutes from me, so it can be done. Sundrop says we have lots of metaphysical stores here. Well, that would be a suggestion then. Start going to the store. Look at what they have, become a customer, buy a few items, talk to the people that are running the place, get a feel for where they're at, what their interests lie in, if there's some compatible interest there, and that's a way to find out about local groups or other people that might be doing a class that you can take in an in-person kind of gathering. My mother, when she was curious about what I was doing, took an in-person class, but unfortunately she didn't ask me any questions about what I would recommend for a class. She took a Dianic class that was a strictly no male energy or male god class, and she was very confused. So I applauded her desire to find out more about what I was into and shook my head in dismay at, yes, her confusion, which explains all the books that she sent me that were all basically of that mindset. Yeah, I still got some interesting information out of them, but they were definitely not what I was practicing. Beth says, that is exactly how I searched as well when I was young, Siofra. Most have passed away. Not Ria Roblox says, hi, Siofra. I'm a massive fan. Well, hi, Not Ria. Welcome to our live feed. Love to have people come in and visit and ask questions, and it's always nice to meet a fan. I like to answer questions when I can. I am definitely just me. Hey, kitty cat. What you doing? Gonna check me out, are you? Bugsy wants to get in on the action. Gonna sit down? You are such a long kitty cat. are. He is a long boy. I think he's one of the longest cats I think I've ever seen in person. He stretches out. But don't lay on the computer keyboard. No, that's a bad idea. He says, why? But yeah, um, I'm glad I decided to do this. I'm still kind of awed at how the channel just continues to grow and more people find me and Ian and what we, our work and so forth. And yeah, it's nice to be able to share some of our knowledge with people, even if we can't always meet them in person. Not Ria says, can we see your cat? Hey, Bugsy, want to come up and show yourself? Come up here. It's okay. Come on. Just don't scratch me. There you go. You're going to look at everybody? Look at the people. There you go. Got a pretty face. There he is. And he says, now you're making me do things and I don't know why. So I'm going to stop now. Nicole says at Sundrop, are you a Virginian also? Yeah, everybody loved you. They sent you hearts. You're a good boy. As a foster, I think he's become permanent at this point. He's a very emotional boy. He really is. Gets worried sometimes. Sundrop says, I'm in Ohio. Okay. That says handsome boy. Yes, he is quite handsome. I haven't had a ginger in a while. I did have a ginger cat years and years ago. But Diane says, I like your long cat. Not Ria says, I'm in Wales. Well, you're definitely not over here then. Thank you for being here. We have a few people in England, a couple of different parts of England and stuff. Julie says, I'm in North Carolina for any who wish to know. Sapphire says, hi again, Siofra and Ian. Do you have any advice for how to connect to a wand after you've built it? I have always had a lot of inspiration for making them, but not so much using them. Okay, so when I construct a wand, I sort of start connecting to the wand while I'm making it, sort of feeling the spirit of the wood, the energy that it is, the energy I'm trying to connect it to. So my advice would be to take a wand and decide, look at what you've done, because your instincts will probably have brought something out of the spirit of the tree or the type of wood that it is by how you've made it or decorated it. And once you figure out what its inclination is, then do something a little bit extra to connect to it and then meditate with it or charge it up with that. Like with my solar wand, I had it in the sun every day for 6 months from winter solstice to summer solstice after I constructed it. And then I took it to Stonehenge Memorial up in Washington State and dedicated it on the summer solstice. And so I did everything I could to connect it to solar energy. I put items on it that were related to the sun, so it has sunstone and amber and gold and things like that and yellow topaz and so forth that speak to me of solar energy, because it's my link in my mind with the wood that links it to the force that I'm trying to work with. And then I did meditations with the wand on a regular basis to try and become one with that energy, with what it's like to be the sun, the center of the solar system, what that giving of light, constant energy, warmth, and heat, and so forth is, and that gravity wanting to pull everything back, and pull it back into yourself, and so forth, and so that's how you connect with a wand. And I have wands for a lot of purposes. I've got a banishing wand. I've got one for each of the 7 days of the week. So the planetary, I say in quotes, because obviously the sun and the moon are not actual planets astronomically, but from magically they're considered like planetary forces. And then I have my fairy wand, and I've got some elemental wands, and so they can be very specific energies, and that's what a wand's purpose is to be a conduit between you, your energy, your mind, your thoughts, and the force that you're trying to connect to. So Jennifer says, me too, Julia. I guess you're also in North Carolina. Sundrop says, I bought my wand already made. Well, depending on how it was made, you can still do the same thing with it. You can look at it, connect with it, figure out what it wants to be and what kind of force it wants to connect with. Julia waves and grins to fellow North Carolinian Jennifer S. Mary says, I think it's very cool how your channel has grown and how you keep it so personal and how we are all your fans. It's really cool what you are doing, and I don't think anyone else does anything like it. Thank you. Well, I didn't have a template. I didn't take any classes. I didn't watch any YouTube videos on how to make a YouTube channel. I just started making videos and saying, here's what I've learned. So yeah, somebody wanted me to monetize my questions with an AI, and I said, no. That's a definite no. There's no way an AI is going to have access to the level of experience and information that I can draw upon that I don't even remember I have. And authenticity is my thing. Like, not perfect, make mistakes, have questions myself, constantly learning. But that's the thing I like. So thank you. Shay says, hello all, happy full moon, blessings on Samhain. Hi Shay. Not Rita says, any advice on the Fae? Well, don't judge them by the stories the Christians have spread about them, number one. Try to make your judgments in person and keep an open mind and be respectful of their energy. They can look weird and scary, but that doesn't mean that they're dangerous and mean or want to harm you. You have to sort of stay as much in the moment as possible and have good boundaries, because if anything is crossing a boundary you don't want them to, you have a right to tell them to back off. I was very surprised when I met the forest troll, but and he was worried that I would be scared by seeing him and tried to change his shape to make me more comfortable, and I told him that was fine, he didn't have to do that, and then he was like, okay. So then he just sort of became what he was. But it's like life forms exist out there that we encounter that we don't know much about all the time, like watching ants do their thing, or the bees, or the birds and what they're up to and so forth. So try to be a naturist, be observant, and be open-minded and respectful. So that would be my thing. So Nicole says, is it better to make a wand or buy one? Do you use any particular crystals with them or no? Well, I make wands for sale. And as Beth says, Siofra has some awe-inspiring wands. That's how I found her and Ian. I'm so thankful. And it depends. I have lots of different crystals that I use. It's what inspires me. The wood inspires me.
I'd say it depends on the individual, because
Yeah.
a wand, a purchased wand can be charged up entirely satisfactorily if you're up to doing it. The one thing that building it yourself does, putting in more of your own energy, makes a lot of it, if you don't have as much energy, just like as much focus and concentration to charge it up, lets you put the energy while you're making it, especially if you focus on the magical process while you're making it.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like one of the few tools that almost anybody can make. I'm not going to make my own athame because I'm not going to become, a metalsmith and learn all the things that are required in order to do that. But my athame was hand forged by someone who was magical. And so, I purchased it. So, it's you make it yours when you use it. The more you use it, the more yours it becomes. Diane says, I like the sound of a solar wand, Siofra. Yeah, they're fun. Mary says, North Carolina here too. Lots of NC witches. Julia turns her grin to Mary Broadwell and beams. Jennifer S. says, hooray, North Carolina. Diane says, me too, Beth. That I have some awe-inspiring wands. All right. Beth says, Diane, that's awesome. They have so many amazing videos. Julia says, I so agree with you, Siofra. To give a good comparison about appearances, have you ever just saw a dog or cat yawn? Eep. Yeah, scary looking. The best friends humans have, really. Well, that's true. You see them at the wrong moment, it can sort of out of sync. Gaga Gecko says, what are some ways to protect yourself from spirits? Um, know that you have what I call natural authority. Spirits can't do anything to you that you don't let them do. If they're doing something you don't like, you can tell them to go away and leave you alone. And if you understand that from in here, that they have to do what you say, then they will do what you say. And then, of course, there's learning to cast the circle and, setting up those kind of boundaries. Spirits see what you know, and your natural authority is only as good as your understanding and your embracing of it. I had it when I was a kid, which was good because I had some negative encounters with some spirits who were attacking my brother when he was on his paper route. But I got mad and I yelled at them and told them to go away and leave us alone. And if I ever heard from them again, they would be sorry. And no one ever heard from them again. They went away. So, the strength of your own will and your sovereignty over your own energy, and your ability to decide what is and isn't okay for you is your best protection. And if you can't do it yourself, getting someone else to do it for you might work in the interim, but in the end, at some point, you're going to be by yourself again. So it's best to learn on your own, my opinion. Mary says, I would be so sad if AI was involved in your work. Your authenticity is what is the best. Yeah, I agree. I was just like, They even sent me a follow-up email to see if I was maybe interested. So I finally wrote back and I said, no, I'm not interested. And I get invitations to do things. I've just got another invitation to do a podcast. And I checked out her work and I like what she's doing, so I've agreed to it. We're going to have our first conversation on Wednesday, on the 1st. And the one that I did with the fairy group in England, that one's coming out in a couple of days. It should be coming out on Tuesday on Samhain, actually. So when it comes out, I'm sure I'll get a link to it and I'll put it up on my Facebook page. And I'll put it up here on the YouTube channel so people can watch it if they want. So, yeah. So, Sapphire Truffle says, thank you for your answer. Can I ask what you made your fairy wand out of? Yew wood. We found the yew tree on the power spot, and that it seemed the correlations in yew wood being associated with the fairy kingdom, being associated with the underground and death and protection and transitions between worlds and all this other stuff that it has made it the perfect material for making a fairy wand. And I've got some. I haven't started finishing them. I've just gotten them, peeled and sanded at this point. And next, I'm going to start using the oils on them to finish them off so that they stay uncracked and so forth before I start putting stones on them. But I'm going to have some of those for sale. I have a few. Nicole says, I'm surrounded by 60 plus acres of woods. How do I connect with the woodland creatures and protectors of the woods to let them know that it is okay to allow me to see them? Is there something special? Go out into the woods and start talking to some of the trees. Find a tree that you feel a special connection with and start with that. And the trees are connected to everything else in the woods. They have their own communication system through the ground. And so they will spread the word. If you make a positive connection with a single tree, word will spread, and they'll watch you for a while to see if you're true. But then you'll probably start to get some encounters. And you can put out some offerings for the spirits of the woods, like crystals or food stuffs or, something that feels right to you. There's no one right way of going about it. It's very individual because if it works for you, then they'll accept it as being right for them, kind of thing. I guess that's one way of putting it. Um, Not Ria says, where I live, we had a full moon a couple of days ago. Well, yeah, I think the whole planet had a full moon, not just where you live, but where you were, probably you got to see the eclipse. So, yay. Um, Nicole says, I should do or just talk? Do both. Carolyn says, I'm looking forward to the links. Yes, I am too. Julia says, I did fiddle around with websites that give you automatic read AI, tarot, or rune readings, etc. Never felt a thing, but just thought it was possible that I was exposed to information by the universe. Can happen. Mary says, wow, I hope you remember all of us little people when you become famous, or more famous, that is. Well, I'm not looking to become famous. I haven't actually asked for any of these things, but they keep coming, and then I decide what feels right or not. So, see what happens. It's an organic growth, which is awesome. Lewell says, what would oak branch be good for? Well, oak is a really good one for solar. Um, and it's just a very nice strong wood. It's a masculine wood. When it comes to the trees, like rowan is in Irish mythology or Celtic mythology, man came from oak and woman came from the rowan tree. So sometimes you can look at the stories around the wood to get an idea of what it would be good for. Beth says, Nicole M., I just walked outside and talked to them, spend time around them, and definitely gifts. Diane says, I live by the river and have used driftwood for my wand. Yeah, and everyone has a different comfort zone for what works for them, and there's nothing wrong with that. Julia says that Nicole smacks her hands together, rubbing her palms. Okay, first of all, I have a crash course that costs so much. And then let me build a house on half of that acreage and ignore this. I am joking. Yeah, but there are some people who might say something like that and would not be. So watch out for them. Not Rio says, I have a woods at the back of my garden. Should I interact with the fox and hedgehogs that live there? Yeah, sounds like a plan. You can find out what they like to eat. There's somebody on my friends list who does like animal stuff. He's got raccoons and hedgehogs and like all kinds of things, and possums and whatever that come and eat food from his porch. And he's got different food for each of the animal groups. So I'd say go for it. Diane says, thanks, Beth. And Beth says, Diane, heart. Hey, you. Yeah, you're rolling over. You're trying to get your head on the keyboard. You little kitty cat. He likes to stick his head on you and just push it right in. Just go like, ah, oh, that's the side of my head. Nicole says, thanks, everyone. Yay. But yeah. And actually, the new person wants to interview me about wands, so that could be. We'll see if that's what she decides on. So I don't know, since I haven't talked to her. I want to do like a Zoom kind of a thing so I can see her and not just be a voice. So that says the animals know my home is the place that leaves goodies out. Yeah, and everyone's got to decide what their comfort zone is, as far as what goodies they leave out and for how many critters and whatnot. Around here, we have deer that walk by, and we have the crows, of course. I've got my winter murder has combined, so we've got 60 to 90 crows that, if I go outside, will start to gather on all of the wires around my house. And when we throw the peanuts out on the lawn, at this point, they're comfortable enough with us. All we have to do is turn around and start walking towards the house, and they all land on the lawn to get the first peanut, which I think is great. I was out there the other day watching all of them coming down, and I thought, yeah, anybody walking by here seeing this is going to think that woman's a witch. They must be witches living in that house. That's a lot of crows. So, woo! Not Ria says, thanks, Siofra, for the reply. Sounds like a good idea.
No, she says Thanos.
Well,
Siofra. I don't know. I think that's
yeah.
a Freudian slip of some
No,
sort.
I don't think so.
I don't think it has anything to do with
No,
Thanos.
it's that stupid keyboard thing that happens. Yeah, I'm not going to make half the universe disappear. The snap of my fingers. Ooh, bad. Thanos.
What can I say? I'm fond of the.
Yes, I am too. We're having fun with Loki right now. But yeah, so.
Sorry, not to go off subject.
Yeah, I think wands are probably the most overlooked tool in a witch's toolbox.
And the most versatile.
And yet the most versatile. Right. It's the most underutilized and overlooked tool. And yet there's so many different ways you can use it. Sophia says, I love you. Thank you.
I do.
You love me too?
Yes, I do.
Thank you very much.
Problem too.
Yep. Hey, mister. Watch with the claws now. So Julia says, oh, the fusses I've had with Loki when I was practicing heathen. I learned better since. Yeah, well, the TV show and the actual god are probably quite a bit different, but I sure love the way he portrays him. He's one of my favorite characters in the MCU. Again, he's changing. He's quite versatile himself, especially now that he's both a man and a woman. So, not Rio says, I have a couple of pigeons and other birds that visit my garden and eat the crops I grow. The pigeons are now fatter than me. Yeah, we have a different station for the birds, the songbirds and stuff. And when the red-winged blackbirds come down, they empty the feeder pretty much within a day or two because there's about 50 of them and they all go crazy at once and start throwing food out. And then the doves come and land on the lawn under them because they like to feed on the ground. And one day Ian looked outside and our yard was covered with doves. So that was pretty cool. I like having our little animal incursions here. Nicole says, I have a river birch tree that when I hold two branches and talk to it, its leaves start moving and I'll feel a breeze whisk around me. What do you make of that? Sounds like it might make a wonderful air wand or a good dowsing tool. Either one or both. The gecko says, what's the point in having wands? To use them to do wonderful things and to focus your energy in a specific stream and to sort of add another dimension to your magic. Because if you can use a wand, a tool, to connect you with a force, you're not using your own energy, which is a lot easier on your body and doesn't drain you. And it's sort of like it tunes is one of the words, but it's more than that. It kind of modulates your energy field, and you adapt and change and learn things that you can't learn any other way. You can't learn a lot of this stuff from a book or from a conversation. It's experiential. And so this allows you to experience a directed type of energy.
Not only that, but in a way, it's almost like the more you use it, it's almost like well, Barton puts it that it builds up a charge in the Akasha so that the more you use it, the easier contact those energies gets.
Well, yeah, you're making like a connection.
Yeah,
it's like a phone line or whatever that keeps getting used over and over and over again.
In the universe or something.
Right.
Yeah.
And then at some point you just have to like pick it up and then you're there.
You're immediately in contact with it. You don't
programs have to, your headspace and your energy.
You don't have to dig up all that energy, all the oomph all at once, which would be ideal if you could, but sometimes you're not always up at that peak level, and this just puts you in contact with it.
Yeah.
If it's made and charged up right.
Julia says, oh, I do love that show, but the real God, I have learned to appreciate him and see a few things from his perspective. Too much to go into here. Yeah, probably. Mary says, can you remind me again about what you do for remembering the witches that were killed? You have a video for that? Or is it on your page somewhere, the list of their names? It is on my page, at least it is currently. So somebody found it and shared it on their page. So I'm going to look at my page, and if you know, if I find it, I'll share it so that anybody can then download it and have it, because I think it's an important thing. I have it typed up and written down somewhere else. I also have it in a file so that I have the names there, and I can do that too. And the more people you have reading the names all at the same time, the more amazing and powerful that becomes, as far as remembering these people that were tormented and killed for no good reason in that case at all. Show says, hi, Happy New Year, Samhain. Thank you. Not Ria says, in my village we have a Middle Ages festival, and there's literally a place where they dunk you into a pool like you're a witch in the Middle Ages. It's pretty terrifying. Ooh, I don't think I would like that. Yeah. I have too many memories of being burned at the stake already. I don't think I'd want to participate in a play activity where I was being dunked. Yeah, not. Nicole says, I'm not on social media besides YouTube. Do you have a shop on a website? Well, my wands are on Etsy, and I'll see if there's I should put a link to that. I think there's a link in my descriptions to my Etsy page on all of my videos. So there's Patreon and Etsy, as well as my Facebook. I try not to be on everything, so I'm not like on the other platforms, because I have too many other things to do in my life besides trying to think of things to tell people that they might find interesting on, whatever. So, Gageko says, there's some witches that can turn into animals. If so, how? Well, you certainly can connect with animals, and I don't know if they can actually turn into animals, so I don't know the answer to that question. I can certainly communicate with animals, and sometimes see through their eyes and how they feel and so forth, but they're not quite the same thing. And, shape shifting and transformational magic and stuff like that is, generally speaking, not very practical. And if it does happen, it's extremely rare, and that's not the reason for getting into magic. The reason for getting into magic is to learn to control your own energy and connect yourself to the universe and develop a dialogue, a language of communication with the universe around you for wherever you're at. That's my opinion. Cole says, okay, thank you. You're welcome. So our show is coming to an end. It's been an hour and a half. Shay says, goodbye all. Bye, Shay.
Bye.
So as usual, it's been lovely, and we'll check in with you guys later, and I hope everybody has a wonderful Samhain, which is coming up in 2 nights. And yeah, so Julia says, awesome and enjoyable get together once again. Blessings and virtual hugs to those that want them. Thank all of you, especially Siofra. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. We really appreciate it. Everyone. Lewis says, oh, wow, so fast. Yeah, it's always fast when you're having a good time. Yep. All right, everybody. Have a great time, and bye-bye,
all. Blessed be.
Bye.